Wow. Wow.
And then, Father, the rapture dream was over. You taught me that evil is just a word. Under the skin, it's simple pain. For you, mercy was victory. You sacrificed, you endured, and when given the chance, you forgave. Always. Mother believed this world was irredeemable, but she was wrong, Father. We are Utopia, you and I. And in forgiving, we left the door open for her.
Wow. I still wish she killed her, I gotta be honest. I do not like Lem. I kind of think she deserves to die more than Ryan, if I'm being honest with you. Wow.
The rapture dream is over, but in waking, I am reborn. This world is not ready for me, yet here I am. It would be so easy to misjudge them. You are my conscience, Father, and I need you to guide me.
Wow.
You will always be with me now, Father. Your memories, your drives. And when I need you, you'll be there on my shoulder, whispering.
Oh. She threw it out to sea. I don't remember this ending at all. I think I might have gotten like a neutral ending the first time I played. Because I think I killed Poole.
If Utopia is not
And I
a
killed
place,
Alexander.
but a people, then we must choose carefully, for the world is about to change. And in our story, Rapture was just the beginning.
Wow. Okay. So I'm gonna like lower the game volume while I talk because I have a lot to say for sure. All right. I think the first of all, like I think this game is 1,000 times better than the first in terms of gameplay. I think that that's undisputable. This game to me is like a perfect gameplay sequel because it's like someone played Bioshock 1 that loved it and thought, how do I make this game smooth? And then that's like literally what this game is, between the hacking and the gunplay, the dual wielding with the plasmids. I think the new atom gain methods are great. Story-wise, it's still good. I don't think it's as good as the first in terms of story by like a small margin, but I think some of that is probably just because I think the first game just has better characters mostly. I don't dislike the characters in this game. Like I really like Sinclair. I think Grace Holloway is great. Stanley Poole is kind of whatever. Alex the Great I think is pretty cool. Alex the Great's a very like Bioshock 1-y kind of character. Like the characters in Bioshock 1, they're all crazy people, right? Like Cohen is crazy, Wilkins is crazy, Ryan and Fontaine are both fucking crazy, right? Like everyone you meet in Rapture and Bioshock 1 is a crazy person. And I think that gives it a lot of flavor, to be honest. I think in this game, that element is missing just like a little bit more, to be honest. But I don't think you could really do exactly the same that you did in Bioshock 1, though, so I think they went the right path for sure. Am I gonna play the DLC? Maybe. I kind of want to start Infinite. Um, I don't even know if I have the DLC. I have to check. I'm sure I do. Uh, yeah, but I think this game is like I would say this game is for me like an A minus, and Bioshock 1 is probably like a B plus, solid B. Like I think this game is that much better. I think it's a good direction. I can see why this game wasn't really that well liked when it first came out, though. I mean, I think it's like Rapture second time. Like, do we really need to do that? Because like the spectacle of it the first time, I think really sticks with people, and there isn't as much of that here. Although I have a really soft spot for overgrown places, right? So I think it's very easy for me to fall in love with it. Yeah, that's another thing. I'm thinking about this now because of the music that's playing. I do think the music in this game kind of blows compared to Bioshock 1. Yeah, this game is good, man. I think it's trying to say a lot more, too. I mean, it went the opposite... Oops. It went, like, the opposite direction of Bioshock 1, where, like, Bioshock 1 was a big critique of individualistic, like, an exaggerated, hyper-individualistic ideology, and this one's kind of more of a collectivist ideology. I don't think this game is a criticism of socialist ideology at all. It's a cultural criticism, not an economic criticism. I think that's an important distinction. And I feel like a lot of discussion about this game tends to automatically tie those two things together, which they are interconnected, but they're not. Like, those ideas can be explored somewhat exclusively. Because if you think about Bioshock 1 and you think about this game, there's very little talking of profits besides the few characters who are, like, specifically motivated by that, right? It's about like functioning as an identity and as a person more than the economic component, and I think that that's really important to distinguish in doing like a read of these games. Like I think if you read this game as a criticism on like on a collectivist ideology, I think that's totally valid. That's kind of what I would read it as too. I think if you read it as a criticism on a socialist economy, that's a bad read. I think that that's just poor literary criticism, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So one thing, what I was going to say, and I said this, I think, as I was finishing the game, I really think that we should have known a little bit more about why Lamb has the ideology that she has, beyond the fact that she's like a therapist and is empathetic to an extent, or feigns empathy. I don't really know, to be honest, but I think in one you get a really, like, it's really obvious why Ryan's a fucking hyper individualist and why he built Rapture. It's because he grew up in like a super communist country, and he escaped Russia, came, and then he wanted to avoid, I guess, the life he experienced happening to anyone else. I mean, not to like necessarily humanize him in a way that maybe he shouldn't be, but like we don't really get that kind of thing with Lem. And I think if there was more to her, I think this story would be a lot better personally. And I think the story is still good, by the way. I think Delta is a great stand, and I think the very concept of playing as a big daddy trying to find his little sister is such a good idea. So yeah, I think this game is better than Bioshock 1. I have to be completely honest with you. Like, I will replay this game again, probably soon, because I enjoyed playing it thoroughly. It's so much more streamlined and paced so much better. It just doesn't have that oof. It doesn't have the oof factor. You know what I'm saying? Like I think stories in fiction, they need a moment. Okay? This game, in my opinion, this game doesn't have that moment. Bioshock 1 has that moment. Infinite, I know for a fact, has that moment, because I'm going to be playing that very probably later tonight. Theme could be nature versus nurture. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I could see how maybe you could argue something with that if you just kind of think about the way that Lamb tried to isolate Eleanor and control her upbringing to fit this utopian collectivist ideal. You know, Lamb talks a lot about destroying the idea of the self, which obviously is very anti-Ryan, anti-hyper, anti-individualist, right? When people talk about nature versus nurture, it's typically about what factors are influenced by you being born and which ones are influenced by your environment. And you can make that argument because it's like Eleanor's literally drawing or whatever she chooses in the ending based on what choices you make when you spare other characters in the game. This game, like, again, I think this game is like an A-. I think Bioshock 1 is probably like a B+, like an 87% is probably what I'd give it. I think of this game, this is the kind of game where I feel like if they had like 3 more months to flesh it out just a tiny bit more in terms of its story, add a little bit more to the background, I think this would be like an A+ game in my opinion. But yeah, there's no moment. This is just a very consistently good story. Bioshock 1 has some fucking highs, like all of Hephaestus, all of Fort Frolic, the Ryan moment, obviously, and then I think it kind of teeters off in the end because it has such a shit final battle. I really like how in Bioshock 1, the final battle was so bad that in this game they didn't even try it. They were just like, here's an escape sequence. I think that's fine. You know what I really wish they did is I wish this game had like a Metroid escape sequence, like a timer. I think that would be sick. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I have a lot more just to say about it. I think it'll be kind of bouncing in my head the next few days, and maybe I'll have something more formal to say about it. But like, I remember as a kid, I liked this game a lot more than most people did, because most people did not like this game when it came out. And at revisiting as an adult, and I guess with more of a literary critic's brain, I'm like, wow, this game has so much more to offer than Bioshock 1 in every facet. Minus like 2 things, mostly the thing with Lem. And then I think the characters are a little bit weaker in this one overall. I kind of wish we got to see more of Sinclair. Like, this game is definitely shorter. I don't think this game was rushed. I mean, beyond the amount that a game is usually crunched, but like, I think there was room for it to be more. Okay. I'm gonna piss, and then I'm gonna install Infinite. And I'm probably gonna start Infinite tonight, because I'm like so jazzed about playing it.